Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to our morning coffee time for Saturday, June the 6th. So, 2 thumbs up if you can see and hear me okay. And maybe an additional one if I got the date right. Good morning, Jay. How is everyone this morning? We have 55 people. Okay. 3 thumbs up. Not much in the way of news today. Where do I get the thumbs? I think in the emoji section. But maybe there's some text version of an ASCII version of a thumb. I'm not quite sure. I'm not well versed in such things. So, doing the chanting this morning with Venerable Kantiko and Ajahn Sek. I was appreciating it and anticipating missing what a nice thing it's been to do over the last couple months with them. Through the winter, we weren't doing group chanting, and it's always nice to return to doing that and sharing that time. And then this has been extra special, learning how to sort of share it with other people through this YouTube channel, people in our community largely, but also a few people scattered around the world. And while far from perfect, I have noticed that it's gotten better over the last couple months. So, and I'm likely to be continuing doing the chanting myself for a while and see how that goes when Ajahn Kurandamo and Venerable Rikito arrive on Monday night. So it'd be up to them whether they want to join me or not. So, but that's been nice. And I think the quality's been steadily improving. So I've been time to time going in and deleting them. I don't think they're of much lingering value other than some of the unique sutta chants, and then maybe 1 or 2 versions of each. So I'll try to spend some time editing those and put those into the playlist before long. And also, I'm thinking, just yesterday looking over the channel, the videos page is getting pretty cluttered with old morning coffee times. So soon, I think I'll archive or delete a good portion of those. This is just meant to be a very ephemeral thing. If there's meaningful bits, we'll extract it out and maybe save those. Okay, well, we had a question early on from BC. So we'll go into question mode today. Hi, Bante. I wonder if you could say something about torpor in meditation. Thanks. Barry from Scotland. Sure, I'd be happy to. Actually, my mind's been turning towards talking about the jhana factors, as well as the factors of awakening. I haven't got confirmation from Birkin yet if tomorrow the first of the jhana talks is going to go up. It might be yet one more week, but we talked a lot about hindrances for a while, and it'd be nice to focus our attention on the bright side. And there's a nice matchup between the 5 hindrances and the 5 jhana factors. So it'd be a good thing to bring to mind. Now, Barry, your question about torpor, that's a classic problem for the meditator, especially after the romance is worn off. If you watch the live stream or have spent time in the monasteries, you will see monks sometimes enduring long stretches of torpor in their meditation, hunched over, falling asleep, or lost in something absent the brightness and clarity of the mind that we're seeking in our meditation practice. There's a lot of different things that could be affecting torpor. One is a lack of clarity about one's meditation strategy. And we've talked about this recently, having a tiered set of strategies, but it's hard to succeed at something if there's any uncertainty about what our goal is, and also what we've decided on as our strategy for achieving something. And if either of those things are unclear in the mind, that could be feeding a sense of torpor. Just that kind of lack of unclarity sort of robs us of ability to know how it is that we should be directing the mind, and it might just kind of fall back into a state of lethargy or boredom or just a kind of low quality wandering because of that. So that might be something to reflect on if one's experiencing torpor. What is my aim in this meditation in particular, or in this period of time? Like, what am I trying to pursue and develop with my meditation, and try to refresh and be very clear about what the intention, the aims, and the goals are, and then in particular, what is my strategy, and sharpen that up a bit if it is a little unclear. And then sometimes the conditions don't really meet the particulars of the strategy that we've taken on. And in that instance, I think it's good to have some thoughts or a go-to or a tiered strategy of how one might adjust. And that prevents one from then slipping into just giving up or relaxing the effort or the energy sort of flagging. So contingency plan or a tiered strategy of, if this is my strategy and this is not working, then what's plan B? So checking the hindrances in the mind would be maybe an additional thing to reflect on. What's going on with the hindrances? And it's not always so neat and tidy. Irritation, frustration, agitation, sadness, depression. There can be various emotional qualities in the mind that are supporting the experience of torpor. Especially if we're thinking about like depression, sadness, some of these low energy emotions. They rob us of the energy that good meditation sort of requires, and it could be feeling torpor. But oftentimes there can be some frustration or agitation. And I would experience this in the monastery, where you don't really have control over your daily schedule and meditation practice. There's a communal agreement, or the agreement just comes down from the leader of the community, or there's just a very traditional schedule that you're trying to apply yourself to. And so because you're meditating several times a day and you don't really have choice, and there's not so much you can do to adjust your schedule around those things and adjust some of the conditions. So sometimes, even very subtly and unconsciously, the attitude just sort of slips, and you don't want to be meditating. There's pain in the body, or the mind doesn't feel comfortable or inspired, or there's some lagging kind of quality there, and there's a kind of resentment or frustration, something in the anger family of defilements is there, and the mind then goes to boredom or lethargy as a way to get away from it, because those feelings are, of course, painful and uncomfortable, and so like the mind attempts to escape that pain through just down regulating, going into a dull state, or even a kind of foggy, sleepy state of mind to avoid that. So in plain language, like, you're forced to meditate and you're sitting there and you don't want to be meditating. On some level, the mind that's not what it wants to do. It wants to be somewhere else. It wants to be anywhere else. And, it's inappropriate, or you don't want to pay the social costs of just getting out and running out of the room. And there isn't the energy and the creativity to overcome those emotions and mental qualities. And so the mind just slips into this kind of state of torpor and dullness. So, and even if one's just practicing on their own home alone, I mean, there's this great danger in building a habitual meditation practice of set it and forget it. I mean, we have these ideas: I want to be a meditator, or I want to meditate at this time of the day for this long, or twice a day, or something like this. And if merely sort of driven by that commitment, a kind of boredom, frustration, agitation, and the lack of the requisite energy and willingness to engage with the mind can easily go out the window. And that might be especially true if one has a very narrow sense of what meditation is, or if the strategy is very narrow and it's not broad, and there isn't that kind of greater sense that what we really want to be doing is putting forth right effort. So that's another thing to sort of check for agitation, frustration, boredom. And then there can just be physical things going on with the body. So changing the meditation object, or changing the environment, changing the posture, all these things can really sometimes kind of help one overcome that. So, and sometimes just something as subtle as going from meditating with the eyes closed to opening the eyes and meditating with the eyes open. If it's something that's like a regular problem, you might want to have a bit more light where you're meditating. So I see Ken here says, for torpor is the perception of light. Let's see. For torpor is the perception of light, the sparkles you see in when you close your eyes. I don't know if that's exactly what they're pointing to in the text, but just if we take it sort of literally, like the perception of light, one can perceive light either with the external sense contact. So, and then in the suttas, they do talk about internal sense contact as well. So with the eyes closed, one can still sort of perceive light. So I think, it might be classified under that Ken. So, but one can also just use one's creativity. We can visualize light internally. We know what that experience is like. Just saying the words right now, it's kind of there in the back of my mind already. Experiences I've had of light and brightness, and just directing the mind or recollecting that arousing that sort of perception brings up a sense of energy in the mind. But, the easiest thing is just to open one's eyes and let some physical light is energy. So let that energy sort of flow in through the eyes and be received by the retina, and that can bring some sort of stimulation. But then also we can just arouse the perception, and we can enhance, nurture, magnify perception in very intentional ways. It's like giving attention to the perception of light. And then there's many other environmental things, changing the posture, going outside, getting some fresh air. In the suttas, they even talk about looking at the stars, like just looking up and looking at the stars. And I've tried that before, especially in Thailand. Once a week, we have an all-night meditation vigil, and you get a lot of experience dealing with torpor when you try to spend the majority of your time, 24 for a day and a night, chanting and meditating. And be sitting inside sitting and walking and feeling sleepy, and sometimes to just go outside and get fresh air, look up at the stars, and then arouse the perception of that is light. Starlight is light. And you can sense and feel an effect on the mind. Sometimes it's not strong enough to overcome strong torpor or lethargy, but those are some strategies. So this is great stuff on torpor. What a great snippet. Okay, well, it's not exhaustive, but sometimes adding some refinement or variety to how it is that you attend to your meditation object can help as well. Things tend to get stale. So let's see, we have a comment from Dantika up at Birkin here. I just wanted to say, to avoid misunderstandings, it will not be a jhana retreat as such, but weekly talks from a past jhana retreat with Ajahn Sona. Very good. Thanks for that clarification, Dantika. Can you confirm or deny if these will start premiering tomorrow at 1 p.m. or is it next week? Not tomorrow. Is this the deal? Okay, well, while we wait for that word from Birkin, Jeannie, Ajahn, do you engage in long-term strategy in meditation over weeks or months? Yeah, I do. I mean, I have, over the years, I have a sense of where my main interest lies. And as I've said before, like breath meditation is my main form of meditation. But even with that, sometimes I will adjust the focus somewhat. So I might take a period of time where for, say, a week or a couple weeks, I'm going to emphasize serenity of mind more, than say just a more open way of using a mix of serenity and insight in the meditation practice. So, it becomes a focus, like as one would go on a retreat with the express purpose of trying to sort of deepen their skill in cultivating the jhanas or something. So, and I sometimes might have certain themes that I commit to for a week or a month or a couple months. Like a few years ago, I made a commitment, and it wasn't time bound, but I made a commitment to spend a lot more time focusing on metta bhavana, um, due to the encouragement I got from one of my Thai teachers. And so, I immediately, started doing some daily practice of metta bhavana, but I also went back and started looking at some of the suttas and rethinking how it is that I could craft a practice that was engaging in deepening my understanding and affinity and enjoyment of doing metta bhavana. And then I'll take periods of time where there's various reflective chants that I focus in on and pick up. And there's even some very short reflections that come out of the suttas that I find really wonderful for contemplation. And I will distill it down into some little verse that I meditate on. And I'll usually have some way of just basically focusing the mind and settling the mind a little bit, and then turn to that phrase and repeat it and contemplate that. And then if the mind starts to get discursive, or the conditions for contemplation start to sort of degenerate, then I go back and forth between strengthening the mind with attention to the breath, and then coming back to the reflection. So, and there's periods of time where I'll make a commitment to reflect on the four requisites, as a way to reflect on right livelihood and enhance a practice of contentment and gratitude. Times where I'll make a time-bound commitment to practicing the five reflections that we've talked about. So yeah, those are long term. I usually don't make commitments beyond my commitment to be a monk. I usually don't make multi-year commitments to meditate in a particular way. So let's see. I was experiencing torpor for sure during my meditation, or during my morning sit. My mind kept slipping off the breath count, which is unusual. I think I'll double my pre-sit walking meditation, or maybe green tea. Yeah, green tea or coffee can help. Walking this is why it's nice to have a dedicated place where you walk. And if you have not experimented with this, like doing even just a little walking meditation before you sit can be really wonderful. It's a great preparatory to seated meditation. You're getting some movement and some exercise, and you're starting to sort of develop mindfulness and concentration, and you can start to overcome the hindrances and get the circulation going. And then when you go and you sit, I find things settle out in a very kind of nice way. And sometimes on retreats, you really see how refreshing it can be to go and do a bit of walking meditation and come back, and how changed the conditions for practice can be just through a little bout of walking meditation. So my 2 daily dog walks, I focus on metta. That sounds like a great combination. Dog walking and metta bhavana. I try to generate and hold the nimitta for the whole time I walk without losing track of it. Sometimes rather than the feeling being in me, I'm in the feeling. That's great. You know, Mike, there's some guidance that the Buddha gives the monks of how they should focus their mind when they're out on alms round, and one is with metta for the donors. So that's metta in action, or at least one application of metta in action. So there's, they're supposed to be composed and kind of gazing downward, neatly dressed, mindfully kind of moving through the community to collect their alms, attentive to anyone that might be trying to get their attention because they want to approach the monks or offer some alms. And then they're to give attention to the bowl. And then they're also to arouse a sense of goodwill for the donors in their minds. So. Jane, I hope not to be intrusive, but I'm curious what is learned or experienced in 24-hour meditation. I've never meditated for 24 hours continuously, Jane, but there is a feature of our communities is on the new and full moon and the half phases of the moon to have a observance day. And Ajahn Chah, the root teacher of this tradition, was very fond of kind of like a 24-hour retreat, which is traditional in Theravadan Buddhism. And the lay community would gather at the monastery, and it's like a 24-hour meditation retreat. But it's not just a 24-hour meditation. I mean, there's chanting, there's walking meditation, there's sitting meditation. People are taking precepts and listening to talks. There's a time to, there's the meal, of course. There's a tea time. There's time to rest. But in the evening, starting, I think it was about 6 o'clock, 6 or 7 o'clock, chanting and meditation would start, and then there'd be a Dhamma talk. And with the finishing of the Dhamma talk, then there would just be silent meditation. So that would be maybe from 9 o'clock or shortly after that, all the way through till, was it 3 a.m. or 3:30 when we would start the morning chanting. So on personal retreat, sometimes one can do 12 hours of meditation a day. I've done a bit more before, but in a meditation vigil like that, where you're doing, what is that, 6-7 hours? So if you just do 6 or 7 hours of meditation straight, and especially during that kind of time period where one's used to sleeping, one experiences many things. On some level, just the effort to stick with practice and continually put forth effort on some level has a very unique effect. And even afterwards, like say the following day or the day after, you tend to sort of feel some sort of effect from such a consistent multi-hour commitment to putting forth effort towards formal meditation. So, But when I say you experience many things, you experience many things. Like you will be very sleepy. You will have to, you will really have to sort of experience torpor, unless your meditation is exceptional. So, you experience, you're not just meditating sort of when you feel like it, and you're not just meditating when conditions are very optimal. If you're pushing yourself to meditate over such a kind of long stretch of the day and the night. And I would say one of the things I learned early on was what your limits are. And also it kind of loosened, if not broke, that sort of sense that meditation really is only worth doing when the mind is in the optimal state, or in a fit state, with you're rested, you're fed, you're free from duties, and you have great conditions. And of course, we don't control these things in our life, and sometimes when we will need meditation the most, we will be up against most unfavorable conditions. And so part of the value of that practice is it teaches you to let go of needing or expecting or demanding optimal conditions for putting forth effort. And it's very humbling. It's very humbling practice. Okay, well, I'm going to leave that at that for today. We've come up on 8:30, so I hope everyone has a good day. There is live Ajahn Suchito stream at 4 p.m. today. That's Pacific Daylight Time here on the West Coast. Let's see, one more comment here. My local Zen Sangha does an all-night meditation every December during Rohatsu. It commemorates the night of the Buddha's enlightenment. We sit from 9 p.m. till 7 a.m. Yeah, that's a good challenge. So, all right. Have a good day, friends. And we'll see you tomorrow morning on the coffee time. So, be well.